Yo, what's up, guys? The Insane Game Freak here, Schizomanic. We're back at it again. This might seem quick to you guys because you guys had to wait like 2 weeks for the third movie. Actually, I don't even know. I think it was longer than that. But Tyrone and Richie were free, so I was like, fuck it, we're gonna go ahead and record the next one. And it's the fourth movie, which I would say is the first drop in our progression of the Pokemon films. And the problem is, it's only the fourth fucking film out of 21. So that's great.
Goodness.
Great. So as you can hear in the background, it's Richie sleeping. Hi, Richie. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm sorry for spoiling ahead of time, but that's just my thoughts on
Okay.
it.
Oh, goodness.
And hey, Taro, how are you, buddy?
This movie.
Okay, that's what we're doing here. All right, so
Yep.
I don't know. Does Taro? Do you want to do the plot summary, or do we need the? Or do we? Or would you rather us just do this more like conversational style?
Well, I can. I gotta tell you, this is the first plot summary where I actually took notes because I had to remember.
You actually took notes. Whoa.
I didn't think there was enough in here to. I expect this plot summary to be really short because there's not a lot to it.
Oh no, but I had to take notes because I had to remember what order everything happened in.
Well, go for it, sir.
All right, Pokemon the movie 4ever, also known as, what's the other title, Richie? Help.
It's the voice of the forest, isn't it?
Hold up.
Yeah, it is. He's got it. Yes, Pokemon the movie 4ever, also known as the voice of the forest.
A timeless encounter in Japanese, by the way. A timeless encounter.
I see what they did there.
So this movie starts off oddly with Brock narrating. I don't know why Brock's narrating, but he's narrating the world of Pokemon. And when he's narrating the world of Pokemon, then we go into the villain plot. Celebi is in the forest being chased by a Pokemon hunter. Nameless Pokemon hunter with a random cyborg-like eye. Interesting. Celebi ends up getting chased, but just narrowly escapes thanks to meeting up with Sam, who helps him escape. Once they escape, Celebi basically transports them 40 years into the future. Meanwhile, we cut to 40 years in the future where this Team Rocket member known as the Masked Marauder states that he will basically torture the old Pokemon hunter until he reveals where the location of the Celebi was. Once he reveals where the location of the Celebi is, he ends up getting this gadget known as a Dark Ball. It's a Pokeball that has the ability to not only capture a Pokemon that already belongs to someone else, but levels them up to their highest level and makes them evil. I'm not really
Pokemon
sure.
Coliseum!
Right, but I'm not really sure where a Pokeball knows its morale system. Like, what? Like, why would a Pokeball have a morale system? Anyway, we move forward and we see that Ash and the others are traveling. And when they're traveling, they get greeted by the same lady who greeted Sam way back. Only this time she's 40 years older and she has a granddaughter named Diana. When they hear about the voice of the forest, they're told to remain completely still, just like Sam was told. Only obviously Ash ignores all of that and runs straight towards the sound of the voice of the forest. They find out that Sam is teleported into their time with Celebi. And when that happens, Celebi is so beat up that it needs to regain its energy. So they all take Celebi to the Lake of Life, where Celebi is able to get full health. And when he gets full health, he does end up being cautious of our heroes. And he even ends up hitting them with vine whips and various other things to protect itself from the humans because it doesn't trust humans because it got hunted by one last. However, once they're able to gain a bond with Celebi, they have these great fun times and they all hang out and eat berries. And it's a great time. It's a nice little like relaxing moment. However, we get straight to business with the Pokemon hunter that is chasing them, the Masked Marauder. And he ends up actually choosing the Sneasel and Scizor in order to fight off against Ash and the others. Ash and Sam end up fighting together, and Sam shows to have an old-fashioned Pokeball that you have to crank up and throw in order for the Pokemon to come out. He has a Charmeleon. Ash uses his Bayleaf in this fight, and they basically win the fight. Meanwhile, the regular Team Rocket ends up running into the Masked Marauder, and they recognize him as one of the Team Rocket members. In fact, this is how we learn his name is the Masked Marauder. They end up teaming up with that Team Rocket in order to end up finding Celebi, but they end up goofing off and they end up getting ditched by the Masked Marauder. Meanwhile, after several efforts of hiding from the Masked Marauder, Ash brings up a very insensitive comment towards Sam about how he's stuck in the future, and Sam gets a little upset. Ash apologizes. They look into the night sky at Butterfreeze. It's really nice. And they have a great moment. When they wake up the next morning, however, they're chased off by the Masked Marauder again. The Masked Marauder ends up catching Celebi with the Dark Ball and ends up bringing out Celebi's most evil powers. Again, I'm not sure how a Pokeball has a morale system, but whatever. Celebi ends up turning into this giant twig monster and ends up capturing Jesse in the crossfires of all of this fighting. Also, we see that Tyranitar was meant to attack off against Ash and the others, but Brock ends up using Onix in order to fight him off, and Suicune ends up showing up. Yeah, suddenly Suicune ends up fighting off against Tyranitar, and then Onix knocks Tyranitar away in what's probably the most hilarious way to knock a Pokemon away. And then after that, Ash and Sam end up climbing up the giant twig monster thanks to Suicune. They hug Celebi a couple of times and tell him to snap out of it. Celebi snaps out of it and then ends up losing all of its power. And this time he's way too drained, so even the Lake of Life isn't able to clean it. Suicune even cleans the lake. It's not able to cure it. After that, however, it shows that once Celebi dies, all of its past and future selves come in at the same area and basically revitalize Celebi until she's back to health. Celebi is back to normal, and Celebi takes Sam back to his original time, which was 40 years in the past. Ash says, yo, Professor Oak, you should have seen it. We saw Celebi, we saw Suicune, it was great. Sam goes, wow, that must have been interesting that you hung out with Sam. And he's like, yeah, it was. They go off to the ferry to go to the next boat. Misty goes, wait a minute, how come Professor Oak knew who Sam was? We didn't say his name. And then Brock goes, I guess he just knows everything. They head towards the boat, they're off, and the movie ends. Oh, and it's also revealed that Sam is the Sam Oak from he's him in the past, obviously, which was a dead giveaway, but that's the end of the movie.
Oof.
Okay. So we're not gonna even pretty much. I kind of like the more casual conversations we have instead of trying to like section it off. I think it's kind of obvious from our general thoughts and impressions from the end of the last review and even the beginning of this one that movie 4 is a pretty whatever kind of film. Like, there's not a lot, but go ahead, Tara. I already hear it.
I was just gonna say, well, see, Terrell, here's the thing with me and movie 4. It's not even that movie 4 is bad. That's the bad part. Is that, to me, it's not even a bad movie. I feel like Ash had a lot of personality in this movie. Like the scene where he's like all angry when he first meets Sam, and he's like, "I carried you on my back," and all of that. Just like Ash had a lot of personality in this movie. The problem with this movie, also, he almost attempts murder at the beginning when he fights off against the trainer and his crocodile. But
I wouldn't classify it as that, but I see what you're doing there.
Yeah, it's just, this movie isn't bad. I think the problem with this movie is that it's just so unmemorable. And the reason that it's so unmemorable is because of presentation. First of all, the movie looks like it's drawn. The art style of this movie doesn't even feel like it's a movie. It feels like it's a bunch of episodes in the Johto League chopped up to make a movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I could arguably make the same argument. The way I look at movie 4 is movie 4 has a similar problem that movie 1 has, where it can sometimes look like a film and then sometimes not. It's so inconsistent about when it wants to look good that it comes off like a special that didn't have a full budget.
And to me, I feel like it's, in addition to that, I think it's also, and I know this is gonna sound weird, but it's the colors, the presentation, because colors can mean a lot in a movie, and the colors here, they're in the forest the whole time. So the colors you see are blue, green, brown, and darker green. And that's it. That's the whole movie. Suicune's blue, the lake is blue, Celebi's green, the trees are darker green. And then there's dirt. Lots and lots of dirt. The whole movie feels like one giant patch of dirt.
Right.
You don't remember it. At least in the first movie, you get some clear colors. You know, the starter Pokemon are various colors. The stadium is a bright lit color. Mewtwo's purple. Ash and the others have various primary colors. Like, you can see them; they pop out.
I think it's more personally for me. I think it's more just the setting in general. The fact that it takes place in a forest, which isn't an interesting locale. Like, it's not an interesting. Shit! Like, let's think about the first film. Took place on an island that no one had been on. You swam through the ocean. And to be fair, the second film does that too. The film has like this cool machine they're trapped in. They're on different islands with different architecture and structure. Like, there's more variety.
A storm is happening.
Yeah. There's a variety. Even movie 3 that takes place in a mansion is still untraditional because it has a grassland. You're underwater in a beach. You have this weird spiky architecture going on, and just and these like disconnected stairs and shit. Like,
this is just trees and dirt.
Yeah, it's literally just a forest. That's all.
Trees and dirt. The movie.
And there's like nothing interesting other than the giant log that you walk through to get into the forest. That's like the in the treehouse. those are like maybe the cool mechanism flying boat thing that they come in on. Those are like the
what is up with Pokemon movies and flying boats?
I don't know. This is the second time this has happened so far.
Right.
And which is funny because next movie it's not flying boats, but it's also a weird. But they do like weird
motorboats.
Yeah, like there seems to be a running trend for that for some reason. I don't fucking know what it is. But the point, I think to me, it's more so the setting is not interesting, and it's not an interesting looking setting because literally the only two things about this movie's forest that's different from most forests is the little Celebi shrine and the giant tree entrance. That's literally the only two you think. Say what, Richie?
No, I'm saying whoopity-doo that. Because it's like, yay, we have two different things. We're the best.
I would also say the movie's other problem is that I feel like there were better ways to do this. I think that like it's not that the idea is bad. It's not even like the plot twist is bad. It's not even like I think it's just literally there was a more interesting way to do this. And for me,
I feel like they should have done this in Sam's time, not him go to our time, because our time we know everything that goes on. I feel it would have been more interesting to do this, make this movie take place in Sam's time.
Actually, yeah, that's what. Or if they had focused on that aspect of the film, the difference between Sam's past and Ash's current and Ash's present. Like the only interesting tidbit about where Sam comes from is that they have cranked Pokeballs, and you're like, that's like literally it. That's the only thing. Like the fact that he's from the past means very little in the grand scheme of things because there's barely any. If you were to watch this film without any context, like if you were to watch scenes of this film, you could not tell that Sam is from the past, other than like, because you would just think, the Pokeball, that's a special type of Pokeball he has. Like there's nothing about him that shows a 40-decade-year jump. Like the movie, which is weird because I think the movie's more so for Sam and Celebi than it is for anybody else. At least the way I watch it, it comes off as more of a here's a special about Sam featuring Ash Ketchum, Misty, and Brock. I don't know how to. It's weird. Movie 4 is a weird fucking film because
it's just like this movie has a problem of being, like you say, it's bland. And the problem with the movie that's bland, like even the Pokemon that come out, Tyranitar is green, Bayleaf is green, like all of it meshes together and doesn't pop out well at all. See, the problem with that though is like when a movie's bad, sometimes a movie can be so bad it's memorable. Like, oh, this movie was so terrible, but at least it was memorable. This movie isn't bad, it's just boring, and that oddly makes it worse.
Mm-hmm.
Because then at least you can fall back on how bad a movie is. I can fall back on how bad Destiny Deoxys is. I can't fall back on this movie because I can barely remember this movie. The only reason I was able to give that plot summary is because I scribbled down some notes before the review.
Now, I don't think it's weird because for me, I don't find it unmemorable. More so, it just doesn't. It doesn't go up. It doesn't hit movie levels of interesting. Like like even the first film, which I don't like nearly as much as other people do. Movie 1 has like standout moments in it that go, oh shit, that's a movie. The biggest thing that happens in this film is almost killing Silly and the giant Kabuto or Kabutops looking monster, but not really, but kind of sort.
Yeah.
Like and oh my god, we need to talk about this real quick. There's a lot of random CGI in this film.
Oh, Suicune looks awful.
And I don't understand. That was Suicune's like first appearance of running around and shit. Why use CG?
Disgusting.
Why use CG for that?
Disgusting.
There's not enough going on.
There's
not enough going on in this film where I could be like, okay, CG makes sense. Like in movie 2, fine, you're flying across 2-3 different islands on a giant flying machine. Okay, the flying machine looks complicated as fuck. I can understand using CG on that thing. You're talking about trees and shit for the majority of the film. Mm-hmm. And you got CG Pokemon and fucking... I don't... This movie has a lot of weird fucking choices. The side characters of this film aren't bad, but it's almost the same problem with the film. They just kind of don't... I almost feel like I don't need to blame the film itself. I need to blame who
their
wrote the
hair
film.
is green, which means they match the environment.
This is the weirdest review because Tyrone, you were focusing so much on this color palette shit. Like I did not expect this at all.
Well, because I'm a former art student and aesthetics mean a lot to me when it comes to visuals. Like when you make aesthetics, even Ash's character design is meant to pop up because they're very careful on his choice of colors. He has a red hat, a blue jacket, and he carries Pikachu around, which is yellow. That's red, blue, yellow. Primary colors that can pop out the split second you look at the screen. That's why Ash is always iconic because he shows up so quickly. This movie uses such a weird dark greenish color. It's so easy to forget because everything just meshes together.
Shit.
I'm sorry. I know I'm being a nerd about this, but it's.
Well, I mean, it's not even that. There's not a lot. I think that's what kills me. There's not a lot to say about movie 4 because there's not a lot to talk because movie 4 doesn't have a lot of what I consider content. Like,
well,
because
let me ask you guys this.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, let me ask you guys this because this is one of the things the movie is known for: the Sam being Professor Oak situation.
Well, they hinted they hinted early in the film because he's like, oh, I'm about to. It's like, oh, have you seen one? Have you seen a Suicune before? Yes, but only once. Where was it at? Oh, I gotta go, Professor. And he's like, I wonder if I should have told him. And then you see a picture of the same area he's in. Now that's not like a dead giveaway, but that would have hinted to you being like, there's some Ash Oak connection going on here, if nothing else. And then at the end of the film, you're like, that's interesting. But once again, it doesn't mean anything. There's nothing like it's like a cool side note, but it's not super.
He never falls back on it or anything like that. I guess they didn't want to do it because it's a movie, but it's like, come on, dude, Professor Oak, you've known Ash all this time, then, and you just refuse to fall back on any of it.
You know what the problem is? Him meeting Ash as a kid means nothing. I think usually when they do this whole "I see my past self" thing, they usually do this in a way to where like the main character inspires or helps change that past version of a character.
Right.
Because then it feels like you've made an impression on him. That kind of happens like Ash, like what is it, the sequence in which they're climbing the tree because the Pokemon are crowded behind it because that's where Celebi's at. And Sam is following Ash, and Ash stops and goes, "Listen, you know, it's kind of hypocritical for Ash to say this, but it still was like, Sam, calm down. It's all right. Maybe you should sit this one out, and stay down with Misty and Brock." He's trying to be like responsible Ash, but they're not consistent with it because then later on he goes back to being a 5-year-old again about shit, and it's like, I don't know. It's almost like they wanted to do it, but they didn't want to really commit to it, so they never did. Because I actually think Ash acts randomly inconsistent in certain sequences, where he'll act more mature, but at the same time he also act like he's stupid. Like, for example, Sam is giving him battling tips with Bailey fighting Scizor, and I'm like he's like, Ash, Ash, you have to have Bailey concentrate to find the real one, and you're like, Ash has told his Pokemon to do this before. Why the fuck did you need Sam to tell him that for him to be like, that's what I'll do. Bailey, concentrate. You should already know how to do that. He's like randomly inconsistent about that. And granted, this is small shit.
And the worst part about that scene is that after he hits Scizor, Sam goes, "You're a great battler, Ash." Like, oh, what?
It's the dumb. Yeah, and you notice that Sam didn't
so
need any
bad,
tips.
dude.
That was the kicker. Sam didn't even need any tips to take down Sneasel, and he was at a type advantage, of course. Even though he beat him with a fucking headbutt, which was kind of insane to me. That's me being. This is like nitpicky shit, though.
Advantage.
Yeah, we're just being nitpicky at this point. But the point I'm trying to make is,
Right.
I don't. I think I came out of this film, and I think the first thing I thought was, I think this is the first film that we've reviewed so far that I could tell people to skip and you wouldn't miss a goddamn thing. There is nothing this film does.
You wouldn't miss shit at all.
Yeah, there is nothing this film does that justifies me being like, yes, watch it. Watch it now. Watch it, because it has this particular thing about it that makes it stand out from the crowd. I can say that about the first 3 films, and I don't even like the first film that fucking much. They all have something. The fourth film is just kind of like, yeah, you can skip this and not miss a guy and miss nothing. Absolutely nothing. I don't fucking know.
There was a good joke that Team Rocket told, but I completely forgot it. So I can't even bring that back.
When?
That's how less memorable it is. You can't even remember the damn joke.
I'm trying to think.
Yeah, and I remember there's a scene, and Terrell, this falls back on what you said. There's a lot of contradictory scenes in this movie where it's like, okay, Jesse was held hostage in the entire Twig monster. And Jesse's like, let me go. And the Masked Marauder's like, no, I won't. You'll be a witness towards Giovanni that I caught Celebi. A few minutes later, she's like, well, we can talk to Giovanni together about it. You get a promotion. He's like, forget Giovanni. I want to rule the world. Like, well, then why do you still have her as a hostage?
And why is she a hostage in the first place?
What, for TV and art purposes?
I do remember that was something that annoyed me too, because I was like, I don't understand what your goal is at this point. Actually, I don't even know. It's not like the soundtrack isn't memorable to me. I will say the one song I do like in this film is the ending track, and it's a very dumb pun, but I fucking love it.
Oh, the Celebi Celebrate.
Yeah, Celebrate.
Yeah. I guess that
Celebrate, R-A-T-E. And I was like, wait a minute. Oh, you son of a bitch. When I got it, because it took me a minute to catch on to what he was doing. I was like, oh, he's doing a pun with Celebi and Celebrate, because it's like Celebi, and then he's spelling the other half Celebrate. It's clever.
I'm starting to hate it more and more.
No, Richie, go ahead, because I don't think you've talked as much.
Nah. I mean, I'll just say this. I think the execution was obviously terrible. I think we can all agree on that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even if it was in a basic setting like the forest and stuff, that doesn't mean the problem of execution comes in. Like, I feel like it had potential to be at least good. Potential to be at least, how do you say, like, repeatable? Like,
you mean
like
rewatchable?
A movie that you can... Yeah, watchable. Like, a movie where you could go back and watch multiple times. It's just
like
not
memorable.
get tired of it. Yeah, like it's just not that great. And the thing I didn't like about and obviously we all watched the English dub, so this upcoming comment portrays that version. Not sure about the Japanese, but I'm pretty sure they did the same thing. Not sure, but anyways, what I didn't like about what 4Kids did here was that I didn't like the fact that they tried to really cram the idea of Sam and Oak, being the same person down our throats a lot. But
I mean,
but what I will say though before I finish that one off is that I just didn't think that they would actually take the time and money to really prove that point, like to achieve that. Like, I mean, I kind of like this. Because I was watching, not watching. I was reading someone's Japanese review of the movie, and I kind of liked how that one turned out. But that still doesn't change the fact that the movie is not really something to be excited for.
It's just a boring ass film.
It's just boring.
At its core, that's what it is. It's boring.
It's not bad. It's not like offensive. It's just fucking boring. It's like, that was a movie, and then you kind just move on with your day and do whatever the fuck you were planning to do.
Let me ask this, you guys. Do you feel like if this was chopped up into a bunch of episodes instead of a movie, would it have translated a little bit better?
No.
I
don't think it makes a difference because, and to me, you would have to change fundamental things about the film. It felt like. Well, go actually, Richie. Go ahead, because what I'm about to go is going on a tangent. So go ahead, Richie.
Right. Well, technically, if you want to believe this or not, actually, you probably should because it was official. But if we were to go with the original GS Ball idea, this probably would have been an episode arc. It probably would have been. It probably would have been better. However, it's not the case because it doesn't exist. It didn't happen, and so we won't know if it'll be good or not. But if I had to guess, based on the way this movie turned out to be, maybe, but no.
Okay.
At the end, no. Anyways, go on.
Okay, so to me, the things you would need to change about, first off, because having a forest setting isn't the problem. The fact that the forest has nothing going on in it.
It was just the execution that was terrible.
Well, yeah, like if you look at a forest, like you could have made the forest look non-traditional as fuck. Like with the idea of having oversized branches and trees and shit. That's a thing you should run with. Not just make this giant tree trunk entrance and everything else about the fucking forest be basic as hell. The only defining aspect of this forest is the Celebi Shrine and the goddamn lake. And it's a lake. How interesting is a lake? It's not that fucking interesting. The other thing is, have Ash's actions affect Sam more. Because that would kind of like be more interesting to watch, to see how Ash's influence kind of changed Sam as a person, which would have made or potentially made Oak the man he is today. It's a cool contrast. On top of that, you get to see Oak in his younger years and how he used to act as a kid. And guess what? The only thing I learned is he acts like a kid. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Like,
yay.
These are just basic things that probably should have been changed just to make the film stick out more. Because even though that shit is cliched, right? The idea of your past self being a vastly different person to you as an adult. Guess what? You remember it because it's such a harsh contrast. There's a reason why it's a cliche. Because it works. And it works well. Because then it would have just relied on the execution of the film, which, as we can see, is not that good.
Well, and here's the thing I was gonna talk about too with that whole the whole Sam situation. Now, generally, time travel, because this is the first movie I think to do it. Yeah, this is the first movie to even mess with time travel. Yeah. Time travel is something that typically in fictions you want to try to avoid. Because time travel can get messy. Because now we're just left with more questions than answers about this. And if Pokemon's following a linear timeline and not a multiverse timeline, then it's just like, why then? You start to question. This movie is the one movie that makes you question everything up in the series up to this point. Now, I know the reason is, they thought of this idea during the Master Quest saga, so obviously they weren't able to execute it until the Master Quest saga. They didn't think about movie 4 when making episode 1 of Pokemon because that thought just didn't pop up in their head yet. They're doing this just to show off that Celebi has the power to transport through back and forward through time. The issue, though, is that now you come up with the premise that, Sam has met Ash in his childhood, yet when he meets Ash the first time, he acts like he doesn't even know Ash in episode 1 of Pokemon. So it's just this contradictory, like, what? Like, it's a great concept, but I feel like there should have been a different execution brought onto it. Because now you're just left with this. And I think Professor Oak, unfortunately, was the only one chosen because he's the only one old enough and close enough to the viewers to know who he is. And his travels with Ash would mean a lot more because it's like, Ash did get to hang out with Professor Oak as a kid. The problem with time travel, though, is that when you're messing with something like time travel, you tend to make things very messy. How come Professor Oak didn't know about Johto Pokemon? Like, stuff like that. Yeah. But now he does.
See, the problem, I agree with your point, but it's one of those things where I agree, but I don't think it matters too much because the movie's boring as shit and no one cares. Like, only like the most hyperactive of the Pokemon fandom would even give a shit about that level of inconsistency. And that doesn't cut the movie any favors, because if you included it, it means the movie is even worse than what people think it is. If you don't include it, it just makes it as mediocre. So realistically, you have a film that doesn't really, because it's not, if it was entertaining, people can forgive its weird timeline issues. It's not entertaining. Also, I don't think having Professor Oak as a kid is an interesting concept, because Professor Oak as a kid is just a slightly timid version of Ash. Like, it's not an interesting concept. And he's not an interesting child.
I will actually argue that it probably could have been more interesting, but the problem was the execution was just terrible in this movie.
No, that's the core of the problem. It's not like the idea is bad. It's more of just the result of using that.
Yeah, the execution was just terrible.
Hey guys, I found one thing that I did find memorable and interesting about the movie.
Oh boy.
I found one thing. It's the only thing I could think about, and I just thought about it. Remember that scene? There's a scene in the movie where Celebi gets brought back by all of its past and future Celebis, which I could go on about that for days, but I won't.
Oh, no.
Are you talking about the Mass Marauder coming out and choking the shit out of it?
Yes. The Celebi's like flying and they're playing the song. It's all nice, and then all of a sudden, he just comes out of the water, and it makes you ask, how long was he holding his breath underwater?
Well, I remember him getting knocked in the water. They just kind of didn't show him for a while, and it was like, yeah, we're gonna fuck with him. We're gonna do one more fuck you that doesn't really lead to. I mean, it's a harsh contrast, and I appreciate that idea that towards the end of the film, where you think everything's okay, they try to get you one more time. I appreciate that. At the same time, it doesn't mean anything, but hey, at least it is something different, because most villains in Pokemon films, once they lose, that's it. You don't get this final ditch desperation attack thing. So I'll give the Mass Marauder that, who, by the way, is not interesting at all.
He's villain the villain.
Yes, he's essentially
villain.
It's almost the same problem as movie 2.
They didn't even give him a name.
Yeah,
he's villain the bad guy. At least Lawrence the third.
Although for some reason we get to see his face before the movie ends, which doesn't really mean anything, but okay.
Nah.
Yeah. He's villain the villain. He didn't even get a name. Lawrence the third at least got a name. It never got revealed, but he got a name. This is just like, who cares? He's just Team Rocket, the bad guy. And it kills me how every time another Team Rocket member shows up in something like this, they're 100 times more competent.
Well, that, and it seems like, and we're not going to spoil it yet, but like when we get to Heroes, it almost feels like Heroes takes a lot of the complaints from this film and fixes them in Heroes.
Fixes them.
Right.
Not all of them, mind you, but I still give Heroes a lot of credit. But I guess the only other thing I can think about is Celebi itself, which is our first. Yeah, I think he's our first cute legendary, right?
Mythical.
I barely count Mew because Ash didn't interact with Mew. Ash didn't. He didn't interact. He got
saved by the bubble.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's not like how, like, movie 4 is kind of like the prequel to the way they would handle cute legendaries moving forward.
Escort missions.
And Celebi isn't bad. I just kind of don't. It's okay. That's what I'll say about that. It's okay.
I'm glad it can't talk. That's all.
Well, we got a while for that one. Actually, no, I'm lying.
We don't.
I'm lying.
We got 2 more movies.
They start. Well, actually, weird thing, because they started having Pokemon talking in the first film. The first film, actually, this is the only film. I think this is the only film they don't talk in, because they talk in movie. No, it's movie. It's movie. I was saying it's movie 4, 5, 6. They talk.
Yeah. 7 they don't.
So 7
they don't.
They talk in 8.
Yeah, Lucario.
They talk in 9 technically, because I think he calls her Mama. He calls May.
Yeah,
Mama.
Manaphy does learn to talk.
Zoroark, I don't remember.
Zora.
I don't either.
No. Only
At
Zora.
this point, I put it this way: there are more films in which they talk and in which they don't talk. At this point, I think I can make that argument. It's okay. The Selby stuff is okay. I don't hate it. It's fine. I see what they were going for. I get it. It was a full arc. I'm cool with it.
There was a lot of damn crying in this movie. I know that.
Was there? It only happens.
Yeah, Ash. Well, it happens twice, but the scenes are very dragged out. Ash cries when Celebi's basically a shriveled up
that. Well, yeah, but see, I feel like that one was a fair one, especially for Ash. It seemed kind of unrealistic to get Brock and Misty to cry and everyone else to cry. It seemed a little exaggerated because I'm like, well, we saw Sam and Ash have this close connection to Celebi. It seems kind of disingenuous. Not like terribly disingenuous. I can understand them being sad. But, like, they had, like, Misty in full-out tears. But they kind of scan over her face, so they do that pan shot where you see all of them crying. And Misty's, like, borderline bawling, and you're like, that seems a little much considering...
Yeah, like, remember Celebi healed your knee? Like, that's about it.
Yeah, like, they don't interact enough for me to be like, God damn, it's Celebi's dead! Like, it's not enough for me... Like, I would have felt that way, maybe. I could understand, like, that's like saying when Entei died in the end of movie 3, and Molly didn't even cry. And I think Molly would have been perfectly justified in crying there. Like,
well, because, Molly grew as a character out of that whole scenario. She's a better character going out than what she was going in.
Yeah. So I could understand it there, but, like, Celebi, it seems a little borderline forced, and then he cries again when Sam leaves, which I'm fine with. They do drag out the Sam one, because the Sam one, they stop and pause for a second, and I'm thinking they're going to pan to Misty and Brock being like, oh, Ash, and they don't do it, and then it's just this pause, and then he's like, see you! And he's waving his arms, and she's like, and he's like, we'll meet again someday! And I'm like, it's not funny, but it can't. It's kind of funny. Oh, goodness. It's kind of funny in the... Just because... I don't know if it's just Veronica's delivery or what, but that shit had me dying. Like, you get this pause, his head's down, his eyes are shaded so you can't see his eyes, but you see the tears fall out, and then all of a sudden he lifts his head and goes, I'll see you! Like, that just seems like a weird... That also just seems like a weird statement.
It does seem a little out of place, yeah.
But at this point, I'm nitpicking. And
like I said, the movie just... And that's probably because we're pulling at straws. There's not much to talk about with this movie because this movie didn't do anything worth talking about.
I guess the best thing is that Brock was more useful than Misty for once.
Oh God, yes, yeah. Misty did jack shit. At least Brock knocked Brock's Onyx knocked Tyranitar out in a way that I still think is the funniest way to knock out a Pokemon ever. It just sort of like knocked him across the water.
You know what doesn't make sense though about that? At the end of the film, when Team Rocket. When Jesse and when James and Meowth go to get Jesse out of the water.
Jesse?
Yeah, they get Jesse out of the water. The fucking Tyranitar is still swimming in the water, and you're like, wait a minute. You're a rock type. How are you swimming? Why are you swimming?
Logic.
And why aren't you in pain?
Just to give Team Rocket something to be afraid of.
But he didn't. All he did was break the boat that James and Meowth were on. He didn't even attack him like that. And then he's just swimming in the goddamn lake. And you're like... This also, and I guess the last thing we need to talk about... and this should be quick. Why is Suicune here?
Why?
But he was called the North Wind or some shit.
Yeah, look, he's not terrible, but he doesn't serve...
Look, they needed a ride Pokemon. What more do you want? He
doesn't do anything cool, really. He doesn't.
Like, even the scene where he fights off one of the Pokemon, he falls off the branch, and I'm like, what the fuck? This is stupid.
I imagine Tyrone in his fucking bed at like 6 o'clock in the morning watching this shit with all the lights out and shit, huddled up in some Pikachu or some Dedenne blankets looking at the screen being like, fuck this shit, this is stupid.
Yeah, he like jumps on top of the branch in order for Ashley to catch the Masked Marauder. He falls, like the branch breaks, so the Masked Marauder and Suicune fall, and it looks so stupid.
Well, that and he gets tied up by the vines so late afterwards. He's like, I got you up here. Oh shit, the vines! And then you get shocked for like the rest of that sequence.
Remember our movie 2 review where we got upset that Lugia was getting his ass whooped all the time?
Yeah.
It's this.
It's not the same thing.
No.
Lugia's was worse I still think Lugia's was worse.
Yeah, but this one was like, wow, you got your ass whooped and you're unmemorable.
I still think Lugia's is more offensive to me because Lugia's was just ridiculous.
Yeah, Lugia holds a much higher standard than Suicune does.
Yeah, Suicune's already not interesting as by himself, and he doesn't even have a voice or talk or anything. And he's not held as like the I forget what is Lugia's name in the second film? Like
Lugia is the beast of the sea.
There we go.
And yeah,
the North.
Suicune's just the North Wind.
I don't hold Suicune to that standard for me to be that mad about it. It's still fucking stupid, but I'm not that mad about it. That's my whole thing. And so it's is it also? I don't think it's as bad as getting beat up in the span of 20 minutes, twice. I still think Lugia's is worse. Suicune's is just kind of dumb. But I guess the last thing to do to wrap this up, because we've literally talked about everything. There's literally nothing else.
Nope.
Ratings out of 10. I'm gonna go first because I don't go first normally. I'm giving this bitch a 5.
Ooh, that's generous.
That's so generous.
Because it's not it doesn't make me angry. If I was angry at this film, which there are films coming later that will do that, I would give it a lot lower. It's just inoffensively boring. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I watch it and then I turn it off and then I go about my shit. It doesn't leave an impression on me. But it's not so offensively bad that I think it's a waste of time. But if there were other things to watch, I would watch it. And it's the only film of the 4 we've done so far that I can say, yeah, you could just fucking skip it and you wouldn't miss a goddamn thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not there is no experience there that justifies watching it.
Nope.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm at a 5. So Tyrone.
Pokemon the movie 4ever receives a 4.
You're terrible.
Not just for I would say not for pun purposes. Just
You're fucking lying. It's only for the pun.
You thought Terrell's great.
No, not for pun purposes. The reason that I gave it a 4 was because the thing stopping it from getting a lower score is because I did find some parts that I liked. The problem with this movie, though, is that it's so, like I said, it's boring. And being boring sometimes can be worse than just being a bad movie. At least if you're a bad movie, I can poke fun at you, and I can gain some enjoyment at poking fun with you. This movie isn't bad enough for me to poke fun at it, but it's not exciting enough for me to be excited about it. It just is, and that's it. Even the music was very boring. It was just this generic. Like Terrell said, the only interesting song was the one at the very end. This whole movie in itself just felt like they had to crank out a Pokemon movie for the sake of a Pokemon movie. And there's never a point in time where I feel like this movie was worth remembering or going, oh, I remember that time in movie 4, but no. The character that's introduced in this movie is Sam. He's the main focus, and he's supposed to have a closer focus than any of the characters of the day that we get in movies because he's technically one of the supporting cast, just as a kid. Yet I've never felt going into the movie and then leaving the movie, I never feel like Sam gained anything except he gained a friendship with Ash and Celebi, which he doesn't seem like he doesn't seem like a terribly inoffensive kid in the first place. He seems like he would have been that type of kid regardless. Molly starts off as a spoiled little girl who wants nothing more than to just be with her mom, and her pop. And then when she comes out of the movie, she learns that, okay, the real world may have its challenges, but I need to accept and embrace what it is and grow with it so that, yeah, things don't go my way, but I'll learn to adjust to it. And this is talking about a girl who had a pretty effed up childhood. Whereas here, Sam doesn't have anything that connects to him. He just sort of is there, and he leaves the movie just as he came.
But hey, he had a cranked up Pokeball.
Yeah, but hell, look, his Pokeball was crank operated.
Hey, crank that Pokeball. Hey, crank that Pokeball.
Oh, God, no. It's just so just... The movie it's just stale. That's not it's not a horrible movie. It's not offensive. The voice actors, everybody did a lot of work. It didn't translate well, unfortunately. So yeah, it gets a 4 to me.
Nope.
Richie, finish it.
Finish it, Richie.
Fatality. All right. Anyways, all right. So I'm not sure about this one, but I probably won't regret it just because this movie, like you guys said, is not that. The replay value, which is the word I meant to say a few minutes ago, the replay value for this movie is just kind of not there. I think at least for the value there, and this is not my grade, by the way, I give it a 1.5. But as far as the original grade, 3.5.
So it's slightly lower than me.
Slightly lower, and I know there's probably some people who love Movie 4 who are probably gonna watch this video and probably gonna fucking. No, I mean for the one person that's out there.
All three of you. I would say all one of y'all.
But anyways, for that one person here, hear me out. I mean, the movie had potential to be good, but however, I think the problem is that the execution of it was terrible. The setting wasn't that special. The colors were kind of lackluster because it was just mostly green and brown. Like, I would have loved to see more variety there, so I agree with Tyrone on that part. The music was okay. I did like the song, but I think I kind of got tilted after hearing it around near the end. So I guess it was all right, but I don't know. What else? But yeah, it was just I don't know. There's really nothing else to point out because it's that type of movie where you don't really remember a whole lot from it because it's just kind of bad. I mean, I guess you can remember the dying Selby thing, which is like, I feel like one of the few arguments you could make for the movie. But then again, you'll see that a lot more often, a little bit more in the future movies. So, and also, I did not like the way how 4Kids just added those scenes at the more scenes into the movie just to kind of justify the whole idea of Sam be Professor Oak when the idea wasn't bad. That's not what I'm saying. But the way that they performed that idea was just terrible. So
can I say just a small thing? I feel like that scene could have ended with just Misty goes, "How does Professor Oak know that we hung out with the kid named Sam? We never said his name." And then instead of Brock going, "Well, maybe just Professor Oak knows everything," I think Ash should have just looked up at the sky for a minute. The wind should have blew so his hair does that little thing. He smiled for a bit and then he runs forward. That's it. That's all that needed to happen. Just like a small little assurance that maybe that was him.
All right,
so essentially, leave it ambiguous.
Something to let the audience, have Ash absorb that without blatantly saying it. It's a show not tell situation.
Well, they showed us that it was Oak. I'm not that offended by that idea personally, but that's just me. Like, I'm not offended by the idea of how they did it in the film.
Well, Brock saying maybe he just knows everything.
I mean, that's just a bad.
It's lazy.
I mean, that's just a bad line in general, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, but I think it's because I'm a sucker for character development. I think that would have been a great moment for Ash's character.
You're also coming off of movie 3.
Right, so I would like Ash to just looked at the sky, smiled a little bit, looked at Pikachu.
Tyrone's gonna animate his own Pokemon film. He wants to do it.
but just like they look at each other, get that little Ash does that little head nod of reassurance and just runs off, and then the movie pans out and that's it. Like, that leaves the character to grow. When you don't leave a character to grow and just go, Professor Oak just knows everything. Let's go, guys. It makes it seem like he's settled.
Hey, Tyrone.
And that bugs me.
Tyrone. Welcome to the world of Pokemon.
No! We're coming off movie 3. A little girl who will never see it again gained more character than the main character. No! We're coming off movie 3. Movie 3 developed a character that they didn't even need to develop. You mean to tell me movie 4 just took a step backwards?
Yes.
That's exactly.
And Lane, guess what? It's only and it only gets better from here.
All right.
Well, for a little while anyway.
It's Pokemon.
But yeah, anyways, my grade 3.5. Seeing the future movies, I think this is probably going to be the only movie where I rated it kind of low, but we'll see what happens.
If that's the case, I am surprised in the future.
I'm about to say, that's some crap.
There is some crap. I don't know. You know what? We're not gonna address it.
Yeah, no. Wait until Sinnoh. Wait till Sinnoh.
Oh,
shit.
Sinnoh. We're not gonna address it.
I gotta make it interesting for the audience.
Just take us out, Tori.
Anyways, so next time we'll be doing our last Johto-based film. Even though it features a Hoenn legendary, it's still our last Johto-based film with our Johto cast, which is Pokemon Heroes, which is a weird film because a lot of people like this film, but it never shows up on people's top 10 lists. It always, it never shows, top 5 is what I should say. It never shows on people's top 5 lists. It's always like the first few movies, and then like movie 5 kind of gets in this weird, it's not bad but it's not amazing kind of thing, almost in the same section people put movie 4. I wonder if that's because the movie has not aged well, or if people just haven't watched it enough.
I think it has a lot to do with it's the first DVD film, but we'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah, we got other. Is it the first widescreen one? Like, it's
not sure about that one.
All right, this is besides the point. Anywho,
whatever.
That's movie 4 in a nutshell. We have movie 5, Heroes, which is next, and then we will be into the Hoenn saga. Because it's weird because we barely even addressed that we went from the Kanto to the Johto saga. Primarily because you can't really fucking tell. I'll be real with you.
Well, yeah, the original series kind of has them both together.
Yeah, like realistically, technically, movie 3 was the first Hoenn saga film, and we're on the second, and not Hoenn, it's the first Johto saga film, and this is the second Johto saga film, and the last one I think is the Master Quest. I think takes place during Master Quest, or at least I think at least the way the film is framed makes me think Master Quest, which is like towards the end of Johto.
Oh crap! Yeah, and I gotta correct my mistake. I said Master Quest Saga when in fact this is the Johto Champion Saga. My bad.
It's fine. I don't think we're arguing. Well, actually, I said that, and then someone will bring it up in the comments. So thanks. Anywho, thank you guys for watching. We will be back because we're not even a third of the way through. Are we? No. We won't be a third of the way through until we hit movie 7. God damn. And movie 7 is his own beast. Woo! Yeah, I imagine after movie 5, Tyrone's not gonna be happy for a little bit.
Did movie 4 have like a fucking kid or something? Jesus Christ!
Hey, listen, listen, chill out. All right, Richie.
Yeah. Richie, you'll find out.
Richie, you've been drinking. Actually, because Richie, have you seen movie 7?
I actually had, and I don't know. Well, we'll leave it at that.
He doesn't know.
Okay. Anywho,
that's a great sign.
Listen.
Yeah,
listen.
It's been a while, dude. It's been a while.
It has been a while. It's been a while since I've watched movie 7. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Nice gameplay to win. You can't have any fun unless you're going a little bit crazy. And we will catch you guys next time with the next film review, Pokemon Heroes. Until then, later days. Peace. Oh my goodness.
What the hell was the Pikachu short in the Pokemon 4th movie?
I don't think they had one.
It's a hide and seek.
Is it? Is it?